good morning, folks. We're gonna do some artwork this morning. So give me a second to check my signal, see if we're live or not. Check my volumes, do some social media posting really quick, and then we'll get to work. So if you're already familiar with the channel, you are welcome to skip ahead a minute while I get everything resolved on my end. That volume should be good at that level. And checking my volume here, it seems like it's okay. Grab that up here. Most of the time, this is the type of stuff that people do when you have that going live countdown, because we don't get the link to the stream until we actually go live. So, which is fair, because, you know, YouTube's got like millions of things going on. How are you going to keep track of it unless you just do it in real time? But that's why you have to have the countdown, so that people can see that you're going live, and you can do all your social media posts to tell them that you are going live. And that is the circle of strife. So we're done with that. Let me go ahead and fix my screen here real quick, and we're going to get started. So, no, I don't think I'm just going to bother with an intro today. Hey, what's up? So, I'm here 9 times per week, Monday through Friday in the morning. I do artwork. Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, I do game design. Here's a bunch of books that I've made for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition that are on the DMsGuild. They all have free previews. If you think this stuff is fun, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications when we're live in the future. This is episode 490 of us making all the maps, tokens, assets, and stuff for this adventure. Crystals in my bar. So you can jump to the Wayback Machine and watch all that happen. We made this book cover back around episode 40, but now we're doing spot art inside the actual adventure itself. Again, we have the 16:9 format, so that it fills your screen when you're using a digital device like a simple phone or a tablet, or, you know, in this instance, a widescreen monitor. Fills the space, 12-point font, easy to read, and it gives us a ton of canvas for us to make stuff. So let's make some stuff. I was working on this loot page last week, and essentially it's done, but I just wanted to come back and just do a smidge more texturing on these money bags before we officially moved on to the next piece. So I'm just going to zoom in here for a hot second. Let's push this to the front, and we're just going to do. Oh, and I also need to do the strings that are tying around the bag. So some money bags with some gold and platinum coins, gold trade bars, strong box to keep it in, a significantly sized ruby. Some blood splatter that's already starting to turn, and the village journal. So these are all plot points. Well, I guess the loot isn't a plot point. That's not an accurate statement. What am I trying to actually say here? Yeah, it's loot. You get the loot. Okay, cool. So let's see. I can probably bond this all together into a single thing, and then work on it further from there. So let's do that. Merge, duplicate. We'll be working on this probably with if all things go well. We'll be working on this for about 20 minutes or so, and then we're going to switch to a new painting. We're going to merge that group. Now we have a single eraser that cuts through all of it. We can drop into here with our new guitar pick and our good old eraser. I just want to do a little bit of texturing on these bags before I called it done. Right now I'm just doing some line cleanup. Let's see. Let's grab. Now we can keep that brush. Let's keep this one here and just trim away at that a little bit, just to slim down the border line. Get it? Border line. I'm well rested. I got good sleep last night, and I pulled out one of my old workbench stools, so that I don't have the nearly the amount of creaking going on that I've had in the past few streams. This is a less comfortable chair, but it's certainly quieter. So I'll suffer. I'll suffer for the cause. actually, what I want to do is grab this brush here with a high level of grit to it, so I can drag it across and make this texture here. That texture helps lock in the look of these bags a little bit. But not like that. Let's see. Let's go over here. Figure that out. Push that into there. This is kind of nitpicky details. It's probably not really that important. I just wanted to give it a go at a little bit of texturing here. And reference. We do need to do the strings. So let's grab up whatever this is here and here. It's like nylon, but it should be okay for the piece. So let's overlay here, drop down here into. I'm gonna use this color so it stands out a little bit more. So this week we're going to be focusing on we're going to do a Pine Forest Bob Ross painting for the Carnwood, and in investigating that I came to the realization that I've got a bunch of deciduous trees on my map terrain, and I don't have any pine trees. So I'm going to need to make some pine tree assets. So I think I'm going to largely be working on that off screen, but I'm going to be doing at least a couple of the pine trees as probably an episode, maybe tomorrow, maybe later on today, depending on where we get. We'll see where we're at. But I've got pine trees to assemble for the map, and then I've got the pine tree illustration to do for the book. So we'll get it all sorted out. It's gonna work out. Here, make a little knot here like that. I should go in and like that. There we go. Good. You know what? Nah, I don't need that second one. I do need to. Here. That's here. Good. And then we can bond that together. Down. And we'll blend it in a little bit here. Looks like coins are getting in the way. What's causing that blockage? It's definitely you. Let's see. Yeah. Where's that coming from? Okay, first we'll get rid of here. And then get rid of here. There, now I got a better perspective. Click that in, click that in. Better, 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 better. Fix my screen. Add a little bit of texture in here to create some rucksackedness to this. I don't have to do like total texture everywhere. We just need to have a little bit of roughage here and there just to get the hemp bag-idness of it. You know, like that loose yarn sort of look. That's all we're looking for here, is just to break up the texture a little bit. Here we go. I could spend forever working on texture. I mean, texture is a lot of fun. It really texture and detail work really is like the most fun part of any illustration that you're doing. Once the structure of it and the scaffolding and the underlying like physics of the piece works and the line art works and the composition is there, then all you're really doing is just mashing details, and that's up to you. Like however long you want to spend on that, it's fine. It's because once you have the composition down, it kind of carries itself. It's just a matter of like, when are you content with calling this piece done and willing to move on to the next thing. And I got about maybe, well, this is showing 6 minutes left on my current timer. So perhaps I'll work on this for another 6 minutes and then we'll start working on the pine forest. So, but for now, yeah, see, like anywhere that's got like these smooth edges, I'm gonna rough these things up a little bit to create the texture. I don't have to have a uniform texture across the whole piece, but when you're hitting highlights and shadow marks along the way, that's a good point, because you're going to draw attention to those points anyway, because there's a contrast. Anywhere there's contrast in your piece, your eye is naturally attracted to. So wherever your attraction points are, that's where it's worth your time to add in additional detail to help sell the composition, because as your eye pulls away from the detail and slides into the larger composition, your eye's looking to rest as it transitions from one detail point to the next. Kind of like you don't really pay attention to what's alongside the highway unless there's absolutely nothing alongside the highway, in which case anything along the highway is going to grab your attention out of just sheer monotony of environment. So texture is the same sort of way. You drift from one interesting point to another, and you can drop the level of detail in transition unless you're specifically trying to call it out. So let's see. Drop this in here. Get that piece. Plus, it just helps break down the line art that you got going inside here by doing the rough texturing. you can meld together the line art a little bit easier into the form that you're creating from the color. There. And get that rucksacky sort of hempish look to it. Welcome, welcome, newcomers, guests, and viewing audience. I appreciate you being here. Create artwork for role-playing games, and it used to be that I used to freelance for other people, but I wanted to end up doing work that I'd be proud of and not have to worry about like how much time and cost am I spending on individual pieces. So by making my own books, I can fold the expense and cost of making art into the overall cost of the book. So I don't have to worry about, you know, am I spending too much time on artwork or not? Because I'm always going to spend too much time on artwork. It's just, it takes time. It just takes time. And it has to be time that you're proud of having spent in the end. So I'm going to grab a darker line here to help highlight that string against the background here, just to create. There we go. So by making the artwork not the end goal, but instead part of a larger composition, which is, you know, the book as a whole. Here you go. Full screen, 16 by 9. Fun format. Obviously the detail work that we're doing at this scale is inconsequential, and but that's fine. I'm not going to spend more than, like, we're almost done with this bag. We're going to move on to the next once we get these bags done. I've still got a few minutes left on my 20-minute I have a 20-minute timer that rolls to make sure that I don't fall into a rabbit hole of unnecessary detail or like just basically whinging in a spot, either artistically or in conversation, just to be able to check myself occasionally to keep moving forward. And so I've still got a few minutes left on this task, and I'll probably kick it for another 10 minutes just to make sure that I can get through all 3 of these bags. But then we're going to start on a Bob Ross painting, and we're going to make a pine forest scene because a lot of this adventure is taking place in the Carnwood, which is an old growth pine forest in the Eberron campaign setting for Dungeons and Dragons. Because this is an adventure that we've created for characters to run around and fight necromancers and demons and undead and stuff to save local villagers from harm. It's good, wholesome D&D fun. Straighten that up. So I'm fortunate to be able to do artwork like this in the morning before my real job begins. So I'm what you call a hobbyist, a small-scale third-party role-playing game designer that I can do my own art as well as page layouts and design. I can't do my own editing. You can't really edit your own work. That's what an editor. That's like the definition of an editor. So I'll do everything except for editing. And once the book that we're building makes sense and the rules work well and the playtesting was fun and it's worth moving forward with, that's when we start doing like final text design and all the connective tissue of the content of the book to mix in with all the like language that goes into, like, you know, prepositions and shit, so that the information is, you know, so it's legible and intelligible and forming complete sentences and all that blah de blah that you need to make a book. And once all that's locked down, when we start doing page layout to figure out how does the actual text, like, we have words make good, but now we have to figure out how do they sit on the page and look good, and that's its own process as well. And we're going to the coins, and then we're going here, and I'm seeing some, you can see like there's some fray bits sticking out here of the coins. So I need to figure out how to make that work. I'm going to be bold. Take your time, timer. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to merge this down, and then I can trim out this stuff in the background here, because the coins are on a separate layer from the bag itself, so it's easy for me to separate them and do little spot fixes like this. Again, inconsequential in the larger scheme of things, but infinitely satisfying to do. Let's grab up some more of this dark along the edge here. I stream in the mornings like this, Monday through Friday. And here I am. Hi. And then I do game design, like actual like book writing, game design work, like mechanical stuff for Dungeons and Dragons. I do that in the evenings. I'm going to do that tonight as well. We've been building an alternate magic system for martial characters, so that all the characters in the game can use a mana system as a unifying resource. That, depending on what kind of a character you use those resources differently. Like you can like expend mana on bardic inspiration dice if you're a bard, or expend, you know, obviously you can expend mana for meta magic if you're a sorcerer, but like barbarians can spend mana for rage. Rogues can spend mana for sneak attack. It's the 5e game engine, but it's built around the Magic the Gathering resources, so that if you decide to run a Magic the Gathering campaign in your D&D game, the mechanics are there to fold the lore of what color magic is into your game in particular. Hey, Steve, how you doing, my guy? It's good to see you. Thanks a lot for being here. So here's our piece. It's looking pretty good. And all I really need to do is I'm just whinging on these bags a little bit. So I just got to get these cleaned up a little bit, add in a little bit of texture, and then we're going to start a whole new piece. So I've got 18 minutes left on my current timer, and I think I'm going to be done with these bags within that time frame. So like maybe another 10-15 minutes working on the texture on these bags, and then we're going to start a completely new composition in a whole new section of the book that we have not messed around with on stream here yet. But we're getting into the nitty-gritty. We're running out of tasks to do, so we're just moving through the book and dropping in illustrations. And every little corner doesn't need an illustration in it. I think once I figure out what like what the frame, like the border, and like the page filigree, like the border art. Once I figure out how that's going to work, we'll be able to, like with the Spelljammer book that I did, we can take that border art idea and then bleed it into gaps of the page. And I think in the Spelljammer book, it was like space was the background, the text overlaid. But for this Eberron, I think what I'm going to do is take like the terraforming effects of the Plane of Mabar, and have it infect and bleed into the page, as opposed to like space was like just kind of like splashing across like smoke into the blank spaces of the page. I want to do similar with this, but like crystal growth and like mushrooms and like foul bodies and corpse and stuff like that. That's the kind of idea that I want to have in these gaps that we're going to end up having in the bottom of the page. Like for example, we can pan out a bit here. I'm going to collapse this one real quick. Drop this. Like for example, there's a gap here, and there's a large enough gap here that I could create some sort of spot illustration for it. But I don't see a spot illustration necessarily serving this corner. So when we figure out what this actual frame design is going to be, we can then use that to then like make a space inside it here that's like not an illustration, but it's a visual. It's a visual element that's not a specific illustration trying to depict something. It's just texture and mood is basically what we'll be able to use that for. And we're still working on what that idea is going to be. But thanks, man. Yeah, all this shit takes obviously a ton of time, but the end product is going to be something I can be very satisfied with. So and if you're going to make an adventure for Dungeons and Dragons, Eberron is a pretty good space to be inside of. There's not enough people creating Eberron content, so the Eberron community is generally hungry for more content. Hey, what's up, Mr. Fantastic? Dude, it's going great today. I got really, really good rest in. I'm liking the texturing here. This piece is damn near done. I'm excited about moving on and starting a new piece. I'm going to make a little tie-on spot here. I've done a lot of Bob Ross paintings. So artists, especially painters, their work evolves in like stretches, right? Like I started getting decent at like armor, for instance, but then I was noticing that like my anatomy, like my muscle anatomy underneath the armor wasn't looking so good. So that drove me to learn more about anatomy. It's like the arm that's poking out of this leather armor, that arm looks right. So that sells the leather armor better. But now my like musculature is looking decent, but my faces are stupid. So let's fix faces. And well, now my characters look decent, but the equipment looks shabby. Well, let's learn how to do equipment better. Okay, well, the equipment's looking good now, but the environment is looking awfully empty. It's kind of a blank field that you put these characters in. So now I got to start working on environments, and environments is composed of both natural terrain and construction. So I figured, well, fantasy, I can get away more easily with doing environmental, like natural environment stuff, easier than I can develop architecture. So I spent like maybe was it 6 years ago at this point? About a year and a half just doing Bob Ross paintings, learning how to duplicate his techniques in a digital medium. Because I don't see colors, so me being able to paint like Bob Ross does is difficult to near impossible for somebody who can't see color, because blending colors on your palette and then putting them onto the painting, that's how you paint. That is the joy of painting. So since I don't have that ability, I had to figure the digital medium, me getting into Photoshop, was a godsend, and so the tools are infinite in Photoshop, so it's just a matter of me figuring it out. So I spent a year and a half figuring out Bob Ross paintings so I could up the quality of the environments I was painting characters into. And see that's looking more rucksacky now. You see, it's got that grittiness to it. Here, kind of like this, right? I mean, this is obviously a loose stitch yarn that would be murder for me to try to duplicate at the pixel level. But at a glance, it's not bad. So it has a definitely like the journal has a different texture from the lustrousness of the trade bars, which is different from the wood grain that we put in, and the grittiness of the blood on the ground. And the ruby has its own texture. So just roughing up, changing textures is obviously an element of material, but having a variety of textures to demonstrate a variety of materials is another layer of realism. Kind of like lighting and cast shadowing. When you do it well, it just elevates the piece. It's subtle, but it feeds in that piece of background information that helps your brain to say, this all makes sense. Let's just look at what the composition is. Like, let's see what the message is or what you're trying to achieve here, because all the mechanics of it are the mechanics make enough sense that I don't have to think about them. And when your mechanics aren't, when your design, your composition, your materials, when something isn't good enough to just pass off as, yeah, this looks right, when you have to look at it and figure out what the hell's going on, you kind of failed as an artist, because you're drawing the eye away from the intent of the composition, and instead they're spending time on what decisions was the artist making. And that's a fun exercise, like if you are an artist and you're admiring a piece, but generally you don't want to have to, like, if someone gets drawn into, like, how did you do that? That's a compliment. That is a legit compliment, but I'm not looking for that compliment. You want to have that become a discovery as part of, like, wow, this is a really good piece. And then they start piecing it apart, not just glancing at it. It's like, there's something weird about that. I can't figure it out. And it's like, no, you want to be like, this makes sense to me. I like it. How did you do that? And that's the conversation that you actually want to get into. So how's the program? How's the progress for the current project? Well, I mean, it's a 16, it's like literally a 16 by 9 inch page, and there's 98 of them in the adventure, and we've completed like maybe 30 of the pages, but a large portion of that was just simply getting the page, like for example, most of this page composition is a segment of a map. Like, let's look at other pages here real quick, just as a quick tangent. Like this here, this is a map page, right? It's talking about, here's the community well, and here's a commons hall, and here's all the information that is involved with the commons hall. But the only illustration I need to have is a map that we've already completed on a previous stream. So as we continue through the adventure, as we're pushing through, there's a bunch of maps, and the spots on the page are there to accommodate the maps that are being, like, we're talking about this room, so that room appears on the page and all the text with it goes around it. And this page took like maybe 20 minutes to do. This page like 20 minutes to do. This page about 20 minutes to do. But now I have this spot down here. And I'm like, do I want to do something with that spot? And I'm not seeing like this versus where we're at currently here. Like that space there was about the same amount of space that we have down here in this little right-hand corner. But if I didn't have this illustration that we're working on here, like this is a large gap in the page. This gap is too large to ignore. So when you look at this page, your brain says, huh, looking a little sparse, right? So I need to drop an illustration into this page to remove that sparseness, to keep the balance of the composition of the page as a whole. But when we go back and look at this other little piece down here, it's not jumping out as, huh, this page is incomplete. There's a gap down here though. So when we continue building through here, once we get all the map stuff in place, we keep pushing through the composition. What this framework is, this is just a placeholder frame for now, but we'll build an official frame, and from that frame we'll be able to then have it bleed into the actual space here with like texture or gritty background, or like thinking about like the forest is taken over by the manifest zone and then melted down into necrotic soup. Like these little these little gaps in the page that don't necessarily warrant their own piece of art. I can just fill them with that grittiness texture as we go. So we go from the front end to the back end to figure out like where's the gaps, where's the illustrations that we need, and then as we're inspired, we fill them in, and we basically keep pacing through the book until we get rid of all the large obstacles and resolve the big issues, and we start grinding down to the smaller and smaller details to the point of, I don't think this page needs an illustration, but it needs some sort of visual language. So let's create an interesting texture that we can use as a default background for when similar gaps arise in the future. We'll have a format that we can use to fill those gaps without making it seem like we're just filling the gap. It's the consistency that you want in the texture and design of the page that allows you to get away with like, am I actually doing something here, or am I just filling space? And sometimes I'm just filling space, but I want to have interesting visual material so that when I just fill this space, it's not slop. And the biggest risk at this stage in the project that I face is burnout. Huge fucking risk, because some of these like this is like the fifth day that I've spent on like this specific piece of art on this page. I can't have this volume of effort on every page for like 90 pages. Like if you go back a couple months, I seriously spent like a month on a horde of undead that is like a quarter page, and it's like, that's way too fucking long. I can't do 40 of those. Get the hell out of here. But at the time, that particular piece was warranted because it fit what was going on the page being described, and it was, I felt, necessary visual language. So I was willing to invest that time, but not with every piece. For like this loot piece doesn't need a month of work. It's just a still life of just some treasure. So I'm going to just kick out some decent quality like this, and then call it done and move on to the next thing. So, and hey, look at that. We're working on the last bag. And we've got about 5 minutes left, so looks like everything's folding together nicely. So when the next timer pops, we'll switch gears. And if I decide I want to work on this some more, I of course have the freedom to do that, but maybe I'll just do it off screen and not bore everybody else with those particular details. So I'm going to blend this string in here a little bit to make sure it doesn't stand out odd. And we'll do like this. I spy with my eyes something that is text. Give me a second to get to where I'm at inside of here, and then I'll check out what you got saying. What you saying? Hey, best of luck with you on your project. Hey, thanks a lot, man. Well, I'm glad you swung by, mister. Thanks for being so fantastic. I'll catch you on the other side, my dude. There, and let's grab some of this darker bit here and bring that in. That. There we go. So thanks a lot, and to all the newcomers out there, welcome to the mix, man. I do artwork Monday through Friday in the mornings like this, and it's kind of a study hall. For me personally, I have a day job. This is not my full-time gig. It's my side hustle, and it has been for years, decades at this point. And so I go into my day job, but I wake up early enough. I go to bed early enough so I can wake up early enough so that I can put in maybe an hour or so of stream in the morning every day. I find it's really emotionally healthy for me and makes me a more sincere worker bee. That if I can take care of myself first, they always say take care of yourself first, right? Well, literally, I wake up, I pour some coffee, and I do artwork for an hour or so in the morning like this. So I scratch my creative itch is the first thing that gets served. So then it used to be, before I started doing this, I would go do my day job and I would pine all day about when do I finally get to do artwork, and it'd be a crapshoot about whether I was going to be too tired at the end of the day for me to actually do any art. And I'm like, I'm not making any progress when that happens, so I had to reconfigure my life. And now I do the artwork first, so that no matter what else happens during my day, I started off on the best foot of being creative and taking care of myself and progressing my own personal goals of making books. And then I can feel when I go into my day job, I'm like, I am here to sustain myself so that at worst tomorrow morning I can get up and do more artwork. And if my day goes well, I'll have the energy to come back home and continue working on the book. And so I also stream game design in the evenings. Like I'll be back on tonight to work on game design for 5e Dungeons and Dragons 5e character options like later on tonight, and I'll work on that for a few hours. But like before and after that, I'll be doing artwork. So it takes a lot of effort and tasks to be able to get a role-playing game built, or even just a supplement for a game that already exists like D&D. One of the major reasons why I have this stream in the first place is that, like, a lot of people don't really realize like how much goes into it, and since I do all of it, I can just walk you through the process piece by piece. Like the game design stream that I have in the evening is me literally just creating new rules, a new game, or a new aspect of the rules of an existing game. In this instance, 5e, because I'm a D&D junkie. We're down to 30 seconds, so I'm going to see if I can finish up the texture on this, and then we'll move on to a new piece. New pieces are always exciting, and I'm always excited when we get to that point. But I don't want to sacrifice the attention that a particular piece needs to move on to another piece. So luckily, I'm pretty happy with where this one is at. See this loose texture that I'm doing. When we zoom back a bit, it looks pretty good. Hey, timely timer. That's my 20-minute mark. I want to do just a little bit more highlighting on this particular bag, and then we're going to move on to the next piece. There. bear with me for another hot second, and we'll get through to another piece there. Yeah, I'm content with that. This is how they say good enough. There you go. This is about what, 7 hours of work to make this. Maybe I spent like 7 hours on stream, and I probably spent 3 hours off stream working on some of the texturing. Yeah, this is a 10-hour piece. So, cheers. All right, this piece is done. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse it. And I'm going to put a lock on it. And so we have this front page here that needs a key. We haven't built the key yet for any of these maps. So there's like 1, 2, 3. There's like 5 significant maps that require keys to them. And doing that key work is a low priority to me right now, honestly. There's so many other things that need to be resolved still that the key is not the big issue, but at some point that's going to be the biggest thing, like the key and then the page layout and then the spot and then the texture. Like down here, there's no way I'd put an illustration down here, but if I have a frame, if I have a page frame that would allow me to expand into the page, then I could do like a little lump down here. So here, hold on, I'll show you guys real quick. All the books that I make on DMsGuild, I have 100% free preview. So Spelljammer is the last book that I finished. It was a little bit over a year now that I published this book, because all my shit takes forever. But if we look at the full page composition here, check this out. We'll scroll down. Like you see, we have this page frame here, and we have these hyperlink buttons that'll jump you from section to section of the book. Let's go to the hazard random system generator. So we have this framework, right? And that's the same framework on each page. But look at this. See, I had a little spot down here, and I didn't want to specifically put an illustration down in there. So the page composition that I built for the background frame is something that can expand and bleed into the page anywhere that I want. See, it's bleeding in here as well. And it becomes part of the composition. See, it just bleeds out. So I can, I just needed some examples of different types of elemental worlds. So I just needed to put a couple baubles of worlds in here, but that left most of the page kind of bland. So by doing this blending, I can really look like the etheric effect of this. Look at it. This just bleeds into the environment, right? So I can do fun. This is a fun one. I can just build these frames like this and have this bleed going on so that the page and the text kind of work together for an overall page composition. See, I didn't have a specific illustration I wanted down here, but I wanted some sort of visual language. So I can bounce between this texturing and bleeding into the background. So like the text looks like a box on top of the page, but other times it looks like the page is being eaten by the background. It's fun. It's a fun compositional trick that you can do, and it's just, yeah, I like it. So anyway, that's how I do. This is what I've evolved into over the past 7 years of making books like this, and I'm excited to see where it's going to take me in the next 20 years. So with God's grace, I'll have plenty of time to do all these things and to knock stuff down. But let's fix my screen. There we go. So yeah, that's work in progress. That's where we're going to. So I'm going to leave this up here. I'm going to hit save real quick, and I'm going to open up another page. I'm going to open up the next composition that we have. Page 22 to 26 is Adventures in the Carnwood. So we have, once the characters leave the village into the Carnwood towards the manifest zone, we have weather, visibility, travel, unique terrain, and then we have resting, transition to part 2, wandering encounters. It's like once you get through the Carnwood, you end up in part 2 inside the manifest zone. So here's wandering monsters that you can encounter while you're running around inside the Carnwood. All these little dash lines we're going to replace with the little mark of Mabar, the symbol of Mabar. So those will be custom fonts that we're going to build to then layer inside of the document as we go. but we don't need, like, this is another spot that we can have an illustration. I have an illustration for this. I just haven't loaded it into the page yet. But okay, so that's just like introducing the terrain and the environments and like what are we doing here in the Carnwood. And then we have one of the maps that we made. These tree canopies. These are all deciduous trees, but the Carnwood is known for its pine, and I don't have any pine trees made. I started with a deciduous forest and then realized, wait, I'm building the wrong kind of forest, so that's egg on my face. But luckily, forests are largely a mix of both deciduous and conifer trees. It's just a matter of deciduous trees along a tree line is not weird, and as you go further and further and grow in elevation, as Carnath does in the Carnwood, it'll eventually bleed out and become all pine. So what I need to do is, this is one piece, this is close to the village, and then we have this other composition where the characters are doing a long rest camp out. So this is an optional encounter for if your characters decide to camp in the woods overnight. We don't have the illustrations here yet, but what I need to do is all these trees are just plug and play. So like I can replace this tree and this tree and this tree, like with a few of these trees with pine trees, but I need to build the pine tree tokens. So we're going to be working on that probably later on this week. And then I don't have the maps for either one of these. These are optional encounters, being attacked by assassin vines in a tree. And then just having undead pack attack is just a mob of undead attacking you. So I just need another map. And we built all these assets that are like a forest floor, and then like rocks and shrubs and logs, tree trunks, and then the canopy on top of the tree. Those are all separate assets that we provide in the adventures, so that the DM can create their own forest environments using this. So as you add in more wandering encounters, you can just on the fly just dump a bunch of assets on the map. It's like, there's your forest, let's fight. I like building toolkits like that. It's a lot of fun. So, but on this page, this is a Red Wolf Patrol, where you're basically, any map would do, but this whole column here is open. And instead of me just doing, this will be the 5th page, or rather, this will be we already have 4 forest maps. It's going to be a blend of like either deciduous, pine, or both. It's like, I think I've kind of played that card. We need some sort of other visual language going on. So why not do a page of art? Why not do an environment art? Because I love doing Bob Ross artwork. So, hey Fox, it's good to see you. Right on, man. Right on, man. Glad you're here. So yeah, we're gonna start in on here's some photos I grabbed off the internet of pine tree forests to help give us mood and, most importantly, color. Since I don't see any color, I have to use the RGB slider up in the corner there. You see, I can use my eyedrop tool, and you can see, like, here's a reddish woodiness to it. And let's look at the ground here. And then we can like see this mist here, see the sky is blue, and we can see the mist in here. There's a bluishness to it. The mountains are in haze, so we got the reddedness to them. So I can grab color references off of here for me to build our design. But we actually need to build the page. So let's start. Let's get to work. So let's see, references here. Let's add a bit here, and we're gonna go with Forest Bob Forest, Bob Ross Forest. There. So we're going to start with line art to build the composition first. Most people don't know this about Bob Ross, but when he does an episode of like a TV, like Paint with Bob Ross, right? Like Joy of Painting, he does those paintings 3 times before he does this show. So he gets an idea of like, what's the composition supposed to look like? What's my timing? So it becomes rote. So he doesn't have to think about it. He's not actually designing on camera. He already has the design built. He's just doing a replica of a replica of a replica of a piece he did previously design. So he goes through the same process that we're about to go through. It's just you don't watch it. So, because he only has, 28 minutes on PBS on a Saturday morning. So let's see. We're going to start off with, we're going to have some Carnwood. We're going to have some mountains in the background. we'll start with that. And we got the sky. And then we're going to have some hills beyond that. And this is just background stuff for now. It doesn't even I don't even necessarily know where our vanishing point is in the composition yet. That might not actually be necessary. Right now we're just starting with layers. We'll have the sky in the background, and then we'll have the mountains in front of the sky, and then we'll have hills in front of the mountains, and we'll have a misty effect start filling in as we go. And then we're going to have our low ground here. So I need to have, we have this general downward slope like this from left to right on the page. So in the foreground, I'm going to want to have something that breaks that routine. So it's contrary, because contrariism and asymmetry is important in art. If you're doing some sort of technical design or something, symmetry may be necessary. When you're illustrating somebody's face, obviously most of the time symmetry is going to be necessary unless they're a particularly interesting character with scars or some shit like that, or some sort of vibey haircut. You can have some asymmetry there, but the asymmetry there is generally used to help draw attention to the symmetrical beauty of the composition. Like if you have a beautiful person and then give them an asymmetrical haircut, for instance, that will often pull forward the beauty of that character. It highlights their perfection by choosing to add a little bit of a flavorful flaw with the lack of symmetry. It's a way to step yourself down to become a little bit more relatable instead of being some, perfect being. So we'll have this can be a hedge here, and I think I want to push these up a little bit like that. And then we want to figure out what's the I'm going to take these, I want to push them up the page a little bit. Height is an issue, and we're working on a pine forest, so tall trees are absolutely critical. But I need to think about how is the piece fitting together overall. So we want to have another line here as like a ridge or a hill. Like a tree here, and then we have a tree further back here and here, like that. See, by having this shrubbery down here, I can cheat and hide the trunk a little bit. Like over here, you've got this coming in, so I probably want to like have some shrubbery down here. I have like these little sticks in the beginning, like these really short, broken off branches. And as you go up in the piece, the branches become stronger and start supporting foliage. It's like we can have here, and this goes off screen there. Have like a little piece here and here, poke around. And then the background, in the background, I'm gonna have a bunch of trees like this. Get in the way of the mountains so the mountains can poke through. But then we need something to add a layer between this mid-ground forest that we're filling in the terrain with, and to separate them from this foreground. These foreground trees, hold on, let's do this. Let's drop opacity on stuff here, and then drop this down here so it's less invasive. And so this foreground here with these four main trees and the ground shrubbery draws forward, but we need to have a degree of separation for this mid-ground, the larger forest in the mid-ground that we're building. We have to have a line of separation for that to prevent it from like having to explain like where's all the roots, you know, what's the groundwork looking like. You want to like in comic books, if you can hide their feet, then hide their feet. If their feet isn't helping the overall design, maybe you need to zoom in to like a face shot if they're having a conversation and they're passionate about something. You don't need to have details on their hand unless their gesture is significant, right? The composition, what is the image trying to feed you? What is the story it's trying to tell you? So we could do something like maybe like a wandering path through the forest here. So that gives us an opportunity to have a little bit of a groundwork back here, but then break frame with that with a ridge that happens here, and then we can see like trail over here. Maybe it's like a stream or something, like a happy stream, like comes feeding through here, something like that. So we can build that in. So that's the general idea of the terrain that we're messing around with here. And then we can grab this from back here, cut, and paste it in. Yeah, and we'll probably discover things along the way, like some interesting shrub work over here, and we'll be able to suss this thing out. But this is the general composition. Like this is our composition here. This will probably end up looking like a pretty fucking cool piece when we're done. So there's also the issue of the manifest zone spreading into the Carnwood and through this thing we call Plague Wind, which carries this necrotic plant material out into the forest, and it settles and it starts to decay the plant and expand. So while we're working on this piece, like this foreground tree here, we'll have an opportunity, like we can put some of this funky moss on it and start having it get infected here. So it's like, what's going on with that tree? It's like, well, as you read the adventure, what's going on with this tree is going to make more and more sense to you. So we can call this some environmental texturing or visual information to help have the environment feed the composition of what's actually going on inside the adventure, not just the illustration. So, hey, what's up? The forest. Well, I'm going to be working on this for a few days, my guy. So keep showing up, like you're not going to show up. Just keep showing up, and the forest will emerge. So I love doing environment like forests and just. Well, forests in general, they're a lot of fun. It's Bob Ross paintings. I love it. Seascapes, snowscapes, forests, jungles, whatever. A little bit of desert terrain here and there. I'll have a branch broken off here and there. Add some realism to the piece. But yeah, that's our composition. So the next thing that I need to do is grab all this. I won't need to keep this for long. So this is going to be composition. 7:15 here in Seattle. I've got 40 minutes left. Let's keep working. Let's see. We're gonna start. Let's grab, this is a fairly pale blue. Yeah, let's start with that. Go here. Sky. So we start with the sky and we work our way down. First, I'm just gonna. This is a cloud brush that a smudge brush that I built specifically for doing Bob Ross sky work. Here, I'll show you what it looks like when we use it as an actual paintbrush. There you go. So it has like these fainter, like some of these layers here are fainter than here. It's because this is like you can see like a little jag is going in here. There's different levels of opacity inside of this brush, so that it itself is a cloud. And so when I paint with it, I don't use it for like painting, I don't put ink on the page with it, but I use it to push it around because it has this different levels of opacity. It pulls at color in different ways depending just on the angle of the brush, the size of the brush, and the angle that I'm using to pull with it. So it's a very smooth, very fast smudge brush. One of the biggest problems in Photoshop and art programs in general with a smudge function is that it takes existing material and it replicates it as you move your pen across. So if I zip my pen down like this, that's a very fast, aggressive line that's crossing hundreds of pixels as I move. And depending on what kind of a smudge brush you're using, the program will have to chew on those pixels being pushed. So this low opacity brush that I have doesn't eat a lot of RAM either. So it's very easy for me in a very large landscape environment to be able to push a shitload of pixels with it. So it's a good brush. It does what Bob wants you to do, which is just blend this color into the canvas. See, we're just working it into the canvas as we go down the page to have this really gentle variant as we go. And that's just the sky, that's just what the sky does. So we layer that all in. I don't care about spilling over the border. I'm just pouring into the page, and then we're gonna end up masking off layers of it to clip it anyway. So this is just composition design right now, and you can see we have the mountains in the background here, and so we have the sky above it here that we need to up here that we need to worry about, and then the mountains underneath it. So we'll work those separately. But I want to have that's a pretty clean sky, but I want to dirty. There I am. Hi. I want to mess it up a little bit. So let's go over here and let's go to let's do let's see overcast sky. Let's find a composition that we like. This one looks pretty good. No, I don't like it. It's maybe, how does that feel? That feels pretty good. Let's see if I can grab this one. And it looks like there's a reference. Shutterstock, thank you for your contribution. So now we have a much deeper blue. And you can see it's much darker here with the RGB scale up in the corner here. That's my color vision. And that's horizon down there. Yeah, this feels like the right piece. So I'm going to click this, add this to my reference folder, and then scoot it over. We'll drop it down here so it stays out of the way. But yeah, that's a darker blue. I think that's going to work. And again, we're just using a round brush. It's nothing. It's not complicated. But I'm going to use. I'm just gonna start bumping some cloudage looking material in here. The dark blue that we're working with here at the top is technically the background, and the lower layer that we just did is technically now pushing to the foreground. But we're just using Bob Ross circle techniques of creating this floofiness. If I get rid of the composition, you can see that we're just making this very, like these foreground. See, it's so immensely close to gray. It's 171, 173, 175. That's incredibly gray.
as opposed to here we're at 99, 100, 97. That's also very gray, but it's a darker tone. So there we go. This is the most blue definition that we have at what is that, 98, 100, 114. So you can see the blueness of it, but it's being pushed down by this grayness of these foreground clouds that we're building. So here it's just some loose composition, and this might all end up getting covered by tree foliage, but that doesn't matter. We're putting it in here because it's part of the world. We know it's in here, as Bob would say. We know it's back there because we took the time to build it, and that adds to the overall strength of the composition. Be here like that. We can actually merge that down. And then let's grab like that, for instance. Let's see. Let's add another layer in here, and let's just drop some of this in here like that. And this is just going to end up fading into this lower ground stuff here as well eventually. But we're layering it in to add depth to the sky. See, we're already pushing up against the mountains, so we don't need to worry about. We don't need to worry about how far, like what are these clouds doing? How far do we need to go with these? Because the mountains are going to block them off. Get out of here. The mountains are going to block them off pretty shortly. So I don't need to get into more detail than this. I can just let this all fade into the environment in the back. And then once we build the mountains in, we might see we might see an opportunity to increase contrast with the clouds behind the mountains, but we don't need to worry about that yet. So far, this is feeling pretty good. Very, very simple process. So that's our sky. It doesn't take more than just a few moments to do that. And we already picked out a piece that's got some mountains going for it. So we're going to lean into this. We're going to grab a darker color first. Like here. And then a lighter color on top of that. Like that. And then we'll end up grabbing a highlight like this. Jeez, what a fun piece. God, that is an amazing picture. I love that. I love that. Okay, so we've got our dark, so we can start with our dark and we can work way in. Again, it's just, if you watch Bob Ross, same thing. We're not looking to do anything fancy, just duplicate the master. So mountain. I don't need this anymore, so let's drop that out of the way. How you guys all doing? Hopefully y'all find Bob Ross painting as fascinating as I do. So again, we're just using a round brush here just to get the mountain ridge in initially, and then we'll switch to some more specific tools, some custom built brushes that'll help make this process a little bit easier for us as we go. But first, you just want to block them in. It's just Bob Ross painting. It's the same thing you've seen Bob do. I'm just using Photoshop to do it instead. Super easy. All that Bob does is stipple and smudge. That's all his work. It's just stipple and smudge. The occasional actual paint stroke, but largely just stippling and smudging. Here, that looks pretty good. I want to be mindful of replicating patterns, which makes things feel nature exists in patterns, but replicating them unnaturally makes your piece look unnatural. So mountains are not going to look the same. So like I've got like this two lump thing. That's too reoccurring, and like this is a little bit higher on the left, definitely higher on the left, higher on the right. That's good. And then like probably have like another lump down there. That's good. So now we can take this and just like Bob, we're just gonna pull we're gonna pull this along the contours of the mountain that we want. I'm just going to pull it down into the piece. I'm using about a 50% smudge ratio here. I am going to, now that we're actually doing a Bob Ross painting, I've been promising this for a while, and I'm going to actually follow through with it and get this brush set that we're using. I'm going to, before this week is over, this brush set will be on my Patreon. It'll be free. You can just come through. If you want to give me money, God bless you. I appreciate it. But I'm going to, I'll post, I think it's an ABR file, I believe is what they use for Photoshop. And I only use Photoshop, so that's the only format that I'm going to provide it in. I think Clip Art Studio might use ABR files as well. It'd be useful if they did. I'm not positive. But I only use Photoshop because the color tools in Photoshop are the best. And I trust them. So since I can't actually see the color myself, I need to have tools that I can trust. So I use the same monitor that newspapers use to do their page layouts. It's an Acer PS series. It costs like $1,500. It's a 32-inch monitor. I could tilt it up on it so it's vertical, but I only use horizontal formatting. But it's an industrial grade monitor that is known for reliable color replication that is self-correcting. So I don't have to worry about spot checking my color. If it looks good to me digitally here, it's going to look good digitally in the PDF. It's worked for years. So I know that's something that I can do, and I don't have to mess with it. Hey, what's up? I was going to ask if you were putting those brushes up, but I did not want to be greedy. I use Clip Studio, so I hope they work. I hope they work too. And I'm sorry if they don't. But yeah, it's just, you know, I just got to make the time for it between running an active game of D&D for my home team, running a playtest that's its own campaign unto itself, requiring the same amount of attention. The 4 books that I'm working on and the artwork, and then having a home life, like with family, fuck all, and a day job. Like, I got a lot going on, so I appreciate your patience there, and you are certainly welcome to, if I drag my feet, and if we get to Thursday and you don't see it yet, you are welcome to bark at me on Discord. Like, where's that at? Let me, because it's coming. I swear, it is in process. I just gotta do it. Let's see. But yeah, it's on my list of things to do this week, so it'll get done. There, ridgeline like that, and then again, I'm going to use a larger brush with a very low 20% opacity. I'm just going to start just working it into the canvas. Again, a very Bob Ross-y sort of thing to do is just work the color into the canvas so that you want to have you want to have it fade at the bottom and crisp at the top, because that's where the contrast is at. It's clearly defined at the top as a mountain ridge breaking the skyscape. But you want to bleed it down and have it blend into the ground, because where do the mountains stop and the foothills begin? It's not just like a sheer wall into the ground, like some sort of like pixel background and like Reboot or something. It's like there's a transition from the mountain range into the lowlands through the hills. And the haziness, by blending this, you not only obscure where's the foothills begin, but it also pushes it pushes the mountains further back. And then I'm going to lift up. You can see I'm oops. Where'd you go? Whoop, there you are. You can see I'm now lifting from the bottom of the canvas, so I'm taking paint away and pushing it upward as a mild erase effect to try to get these slopes and these contour lines working together. And now I'm going to again blend it in together again. Exact same techniques that we see on Bob Ross. Nothing different. It's all the same. We're just doing a little bit of X work here, like little cross slashing like that. Just again, another way of being able to work this into the canvas a little bit more. There we go. So that's our base. And we want to hide. There we go. That feels pretty good. It's already looking like a really fucking cool piece, huh? Like, like the mood, like just the mood is there. Like this feels dark and foreboding, and that's exactly the attitude that we want, because your characters are going into they're going into a hellscape. Like their destination through this forest is literally entering a hellscape. So it's fitting that the background environment would have this darkness to it, you know. So let's zoom in. I don't need more. I don't need more dark. I want a mid-tone. Something like that feels pretty good. And then we have our highlight already. So let's see. We're going to do a new layer so that we don't mess with those mountains, and we're going to paint over them. God, I just fucking love mountains. They're so fun. All right, there's two brushes in particular that I'm going to want to make use of while we're adding the rock texture in. It's my chisel brush and my razor. So chisels and razors. So these are unique brushes that I built that I'll include in the brush set. Here is our mountain razor. It looks like this. Like that. And then let's grab my my chisel. Going through all these different brushes that we've made. Chisel should be up here. There it is. Mountain chalk. Mountain chisel. And that's my chisel. Chisel. Razor. Between these two pieces, I can do mountain texture. So let's actually use a mid-tone first, and let's see. I usually start with the chisel. I use the chisel a lot more than the razor. So I don't need to worry about like drawing outside the lines, because I can use this the actual selection of the mountain's base to then like for instance here I can do that, and then I can delete that away so that the texture, the color change stays within the lines, right? So thank you, timely timer. What I got 20 minutes left, so let's see in the next 20 minutes if I can get these mountains done and start working on another piece. So I'm just gonna kind of dot this in here like this a little bit, change our size of our brush, but it's just tapping. I'm just initially I'm just tapping this in just to create some space to shape it a little bit. It looks a little rough right now, but believe me, it'll end up being it'll end up looking okay. Here, and then I'm going to use my razor as an eraser right now, so then I can start erasing this stuff. See, I'm using the flat. It has the flat edge on the left, and then it's got the serrated bits on the right. So by using the eraser with 100%. So I can use my razor, I can use the front, the left side here to trim away and cut at that. And I can use my razor to come back in to fill that in a bit. And I can break up the texture with the razor just to shave, razor, shaving, get it? Shave off some of the ink here. And now I'm going to grab the chisel, and I'm going to take us up to 90% opacity, 90% strength. I'm going to use this as a smudge brush. So I'm going to pull on this a little bit here. I'm going to flip it over. There's going to be a lot of whinging and pushing pixels around because I'm looking to create an effect. And each mountain is a little different, but as I go through this process, we should get to a place where we've got some decent texture on these guys. So I'm going to pull, and we want to pay attention to the contours of the mountain. But as we go through here and break this up, we are, with a 90% strength, we're pushing a lot of the ink around without leaving hardly any of it behind. So it allows us to make some interesting little pieces inside of it. And now we're going to use an eraser here and chop away at it a little bit. Like that. Here. Grab that and push that up in here. Break that up a little bit. Let's grab our razor. Chisel smudge. I'm making it smaller to get into these little nooks. Change that up to break it. Erase along the edges here. And this is kind of a vibe, you know. You just kind of after a while, you get an idea of like what works for you, what feels right, what looks good. See, it's it just starts to look good. I'm trying to follow the contours that we initially created when we started making the base color, so that you see this is kind of naturally starting to blend in as we drop in elevation and pull the pixels more. It just naturally fades just like the rest of the piece does. And you got this cool little ridge over here now. That's super cool. We can erase here and create this cleft. There, just break that stuff up a little bit. Just get it chunky. It's more of breaking the frame. Like, we're not trying to like draw anything in particular. Yeah, I mean, sure, I'm geeking on like this little ridge thing that we just built. But that was just like a little thing that cropped up. It's not like I'm trying to specifically do that. It's just I saw a little thing. It's like, oh, that's cute. Let's look at that for a second. But I'm not trying to achieve anything other than just stick with like where the light source is at. The light's coming from the right, so we're just kind of letting this terrain just get affected by it. You know? Does that make sense? And the opacity, like the very mild, like the 90% brush strength that we're using right now is slowly deteriorating the contrast of the pixels as we push down. Like, we can add in another block here and then push that down, and it bleeds away as we move away from the edge, the side on the right that has the light, and we move down and we move around the structure. It just naturally becomes less highlighted, therefore darker. Just erase a little bit in here, and then again we can just pull this into this space, just looking at what's the angles, what's the contrast here, where's the light actually hitting, and where do we need to curve it. Dot that down in there like that to create this little gap, like that. I saw the Now You See Me 2, the second movie, the magician heist movie. God damn, what a piece of trash. That is such just brainless fodder. It was a fun ride, but it was, I mean, it's trash. It's utter trash. If you're into brainless trash, it's not something that I like. It's not something I recommend. Like you just like actually sit and watch. But like if you're into playing mobile games while Netflix is on, Now You See Me number 2. That's good background noise. Like while I'm couch surfing and playing chess and stuff with the family. It's a decent film to have on in the background, because occasionally it does interesting stuff that you want to look up from whatever it is that you're doing to absorb whatever nonsense it is that they're doing. But for the most part, most of it's not very visual. It's not necessary. I'm also very picky. I am a picky media consumer. I liked how that was. I don't want to lose that. Let's go like that. There you go. And let's blend that in there. This takes a little bit longer than what Bob would do it, because he has his brush and his knife has a texture component where he can apply pressure differently. And there's a different level of sensitivity. I'm not actually feeling the paint being dropped onto the page, so I can't just like whisper it across the page to have like a light dusting. I have to physically, intentionally place each position, even if I have a way of being able to an extent, turn off my brain and let it just kind of like dot itself in. It's still something I have to actively do. So I don't have the same level of freedom and creativity in this process that Bob does at an actual paint canvas, but it's still an effective process. I'm going to take in here, just dot this down here and smudge that out like that. Hit an eraser a little bit here to dot that in. There we go. Now I'm just trying to break up any unnatural looking shapes that are in here that would make it feel more like a painting technique as opposed to actual texture. Hey, what's up? Hey, Jesse. If you had a pen and tablet like Wacom, I believe they have. They do. And I use a Wacom tablet, and I use their Art Pen TM. This Art Pen has a three-dimensional. Has two radio transponders in the tips, and then one in the butt. So when I spin the brush, you can see it. You can see it here. See, I can change the angle of the brush by spinning my pen stylus around. So, but the difference, what I mean by pressure and texture, is that when Bob is actually painting, he can actually feel the paint gripping the canvas. Like I know enough about painting in real life that when you drag a brush or you drag a pen, you can actually feel the paint catching along the edge of the seam. You can feel it leaving the brush, becoming lighter, and that helps dictate how and the texture of the canvas itself creates this bumpy topography that the paint can grip and pull, which is how he makes these cool breaks when he's doing lighting like snow or whatever on a mountaintop. He can feel that grit grabbing at the canvas, and yes, you're absolutely right. These brushes have that pressure sensitivity, but it's not the same type, you know. It's I mean, maybe if I actually got good at this, then I might be able to explore that idea, and there might be merit there. So I don't want to just discount what you're talking about. But I was actually talking about like a tactile sensation to the pressure in a very specific context. But you're absolutely right. And thanks for keying in, man. I appreciate you dropping words. So different canvases can have different textures. Yeah. If you're actually like working like actual canvases, like an actual meat space where like paint, you get high off of the paint fumes. Different types of texture, like depending on what kind of a canvas you're using, will affect how the paint grips. And I think this is probably pretty good. I'm going to drop the opacity here on my eraser and just tap at it a little bit just to add a little bit of grit, because I like the overall look of this design, but I want to break up some of these forms a little bit. So by using we're at 50% right now on our eraser, so it's eating up some of the ink, but of the paint, but not all of it. There, and I can go back here and I can smudge in those a little bit more, and that feels good. So let's move on to this one. So let's do the same here. We're just gonna take this and pull at it. A lot of this is just like organizing chaos, and it takes practice. I'm still hesitant about like each mountain that I go into, because like, am I going to end up just like pushing paint around? It's going to look stupid, or is it going to end up actually looking good? And there's always a risk to it. Because you could just have a bad run and just end up making a bad composition. You got to scrap it. So luckily these things don't take that long. I only have 5 minutes left right now, so we're not gonna get much further. But I'm here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. When we come back tomorrow morning, we're gonna keep working on this piece. So we're just gonna continue the mountain range. Right now I'm just gonna work this into the canvas a little bit. And let's get ourselves back up to 100%. And just start erasing a little bit to form some lines for us to work around. Once we get the texture, once we get like the general shape of the mountain, the texturing and the smudge work should be able to help fill in the pieces for us. Like that. There we go. There, and let's grab our... You can feel the chisel. We're going to get our razor back in here a little bit. There we go. I'm going to pull at this with a smudge tool just to work into the canvas a little bit more. And then here. It's just kind of organizing chaos, you know? Letting it kind of slide down the mountain. There we go. Work that in. See, now we got this like cool little valley vibe going on in here. That's super cool. I kind of want to bring that forward a little bit. That's cool. I love that. So let's work that in. What's up? I wonder, does Photoshop have the ability to emulate a canvas texture? Corel Paint does. Corel Paint, assuming that Corel Paint still exists, I haven't looked at it in decades, like literally, but way back in the day, they were really getting into like three-dimensionality. Like you could put like putty on the page and would actually, and then you could change the angle of the light hitting the canvas, and you can increase or decrease the grit of the canvas. It was intense. It was designed to be like, you know, like you have tabletop simulators, right? It's like a virtual environment that you can like clack dice on and like lift up and move pieces around the board. The Corel Paint program was designed to be a medium simulator, where it was attempting to duplicate the actual three-dimensional space on your two-dimensional painting. It's like you could actually like, yeah, make the angle of your environment light actually affect how the medium appears on canvas when you paint it. It's a pretty impressive tool. It was honestly, it was more horsepower than I needed for what I wanted to do at the time, and very complicated, like high amount of customization, more than I needed. So I ended up backing away from it, but it's an impressive tool if you're looking for something to simulate. I don't know what Corel's Corel. I don't know where they're at anymore, if at all. But they were the king of duplicating and like mimicking different types of medium, gouache, acrylics, watercolor. Like it would have a saturation effect on the watercolor, so when you would put a dab, you would actually watch it dry on the canvas and melt into the page. It was intense. It was a cool program. It was probably ahead of its time. I just don't know if they've survived long enough to get to a place where they're really impressed, because I never hear anyone talk about Corel Paint. So I'm assuming they bellied up. But man, that idea, we have the technology now to actually do it. I just don't know if they survived, but that would have been something worth preserving till today, to be able just to use the horsepower of our engines to be able to do that. It was the watercolor was a really cool tool to mess around with. And then you could switch to acrylics and have a watered down acrylic, or you could thicken it so it'd have like this space between, like where oils and watercolor would work. It was really neat. It was really, really neat. Let's switch back to our chisel for erasing. So it's dotted that. I'm gonna drop the opacity on the eraser so we can just add to the grit and texture going on here. So I like where we're at in this piece right now. I like how this one's sitting too. So just by breaking it up a little bit with a light erase feature, and there we go. I like how that looks. And then pan out. Not bad. It's a little rough, so I feel like I'm going to put another layer over this. Just because the muse wants me to add a layer on top of it. Like there's too much grit and texture. I want to flatten out some of these lines a little bit, so that it feels more sheer. But that's my timer. So we're gonna come back. I'm gonna just dust this all here real quick, just to get that in place. Like the further away we get from the center of the piece, like from the foreground, the less important the texture becomes, and it becomes more of just color. So, but I do want to go in through here, and all right, so that's where we're at so far. I can already tell like what I want to do is like add in another layer on top of this, and then maybe switch color, but drop the opacity of it, and drop this in here like this, like a highlight like that, and sort of smudge this in. Like that. And then smudge something like that. I'm just doing an overlay right now. I'm just working this into the canvas. Like that. Chop at that. All right, so Monday nights in about 10 hours, I'm going to be back on, and we're going to continue working on 5e martial character design. We're building the mana system for martial characters, so that they have spell points as a resource to expend on martial maneuvers and tactical shit. That's been a super fun playtesting that we've been doing, and so I'm just going through and updating all of the character options for the martial characters to make sure it's current with where the playtesting is at right now. So I'll be working on that this evening, and then we're going to be back tomorrow morning and continuing to work on this piece. Look at it, we got this neat little this low hanging ridge here that's just kind of coming into existence that just blends into the hillscape. So see, this is going to end up looking pretty good. I think we're going to have a really cool piece here when we're done. And this is just the background. Again, the actual composition. So we're gonna have the pine tree forest here. We're gonna have low growth here. So a lot of this mountain range is going to end up getting covered. So we don't have to like be super intense going in on the detail, because a lot of it's just going to get covered up by the foreground. But we want it there because we don't know where the foreground is going to cover and where it's going to poke through. So it has to look good on its own merit, so that when we see through the forest into the distance, we can see that the actual mountain range is there. This is an actual living world that we're building. So we're going to work our way down from these highlands into the lower Karn. We'll have the forest filling in here, so we'll go through that process, then the individual trees, and then we'll work on the shrubbery, the groundwork. And then we'll do the tree bark texture for the trees that are close enough, and then do like specific effects. So this will be done. I work Monday through Friday for about an hour and a half a day. So I get about 7.5 hours worth of work in the mornings that I can do each week. I suspect this piece is going to be done maybe by Thursday. And then I also have some pine tree tokens that I need to build. I'll be working on those off screen in the evenings, and then I'll just show you that progress as we come along. But yeah, this is where we're at right now. If you guys think this stuff is cool, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can get notifications when I'm live in the future. I've been doing this now for, I guess, 3 years, so it's pretty consistent. I show up. I just like a dad you wish was there. I just fucking show up. So I'll just keep showing up, and when this is done, we're gonna move on to the next book, and I just keep creating more books and then illustrating them and then publishing, and then we move on to the next piece. We just keep moving from piece to piece, and I suspect this is what I'm just gonna be doing until I die. So, I mean, it's the best course for me, having a meaningful future of producing things that building community and having an opportunity just to show off some stuff that I've learned along the ways and help the next batch that wants to figure stuff out too. So that's it for now, guys. I'm out of here. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me. Thanks for the great questions and conversation. I really appreciate you guys. And I'll see you soon. Cheers.